Hello and welcome to tutorial 163 in these tutorials that focus on Tradestion Easy Language. If you're interested, please go to markplex.com, that's markplex.com, and join our newsletter email list, and also subscribe to this YouTube channel, or the channel on YouTube. So today what we're going to be doing is calculating an EMA using a price series provider. This is something we did back in tutorial 86, but I'm doing it slightly different this time. What I'm doing is the traditional, or the normal way that you create an EMA is you start calculating at the beginning of the chart, and the value gradually changes and accumulates new information as we go through more bars. What I'm doing in this case is each bar I am counting back a number of bars, trying to work out what that number of bars is, and we'll look at that in a moment, and then moving forward for that specific bar and recalculating it each time. The end result is going to be something like this. This is for minute charts where we have a shorter time at bar length on the chart, and then we're trying to find what the EMA would be if it were applied to a longer time frame PSP. Now you'll notice I do have data 2 here, and the reason for that is I just wanted to have both the PSP and data 2 just to make sure, just to do a check that the program was working as expected. So let us go and I'll talk you through the program. This will be available, by the way, for download. It is only for Tradestion. You'll see we have a couple of namespaces, and then we have our two inputs, one the length, which is the length of the EMA, and the other is the int span. This would be the length of the longer bars. Not actually doing two versions of this program, one which is assuming data 2 is there, which was done really for testing, as I said, but then another version where you don't need data 2. Let's go through. Now this is the real guts of the program here. This is where we do the calculation. Now there is an input which is ADJ. We'll talk about that in a second, but just assume it's 0 for the moment. It can either be 0 or 1 in this program, and let's just assume it's 0. So what we're doing, checking we've got enough bars in the PSP, and then we're setting an initial value, because remember we're doing this for each bar, so each time we need to set an initial value, and we do that for the PSP close, bars back -1 ago, and then we go through the bars starting at the oldest and moving forward, doing a calculation which, if you look at the Tradestion XAverage function, you'll see is very similar to what is used there. That is the method that we call every tick. To do that, we need a price series provider. Now, price series provider you can create very easily using the toolbox. Go in there, double click on price series provider, change some of the values, and then you can copy that code from the designer generated code. But this is what I'm using here. The only input is int span, so we can define what bar length we want for that imaginary data 2, which needs to be there for this version of the program, but the other version it does not, because I've stripped out all the data 2 stuff. And then we're calculating something called bars back, and that is going to be equal to length times 4.5, and I'm just using the factor there that Tradestion uses for radar screen in terms of loading additional bars. You'll see where we use that in a moment. Then we call the method every tick on the chart, and we also calculate in this version of the program, because we're using data 2, the value of the EMA using data 2, and we're just using this here, and that is using the same calculation as is used by XAverage, or indeed what I've used above in the method, but that's calculating for data 2. And then we plot the two. We plot the exponential moving average created using the PSP, and the one created using data 2. And if you were to zoom in here on the chart, you'll see I've overlaid the two, and they seem to be very close together, if not identical on this chart. Another thing I've done, which we'll talk about later, is plotted the PSP close. The reason I've done that is because in some charts there seems to be a slight discrepancy, and I think the reason for that is the PSP is not totally synchronized with the price series. In this section here, we can modify the color of the plots for real-time bars, but what I added is a little final thing here, and that this is because of the synchronization issues, just to get the best synchronization possible. What I do is, if it's a real-time bar, what I always store in this variable bar status LT, which is an intrabar persist variable, is bar status 1. So that is always going to be sort of one tick behind the rest of the chart. And then when we go through the chart again, so we get the last tick of the bar, then we go into the new bar, and on the first tick of that bar, this variable, which was just set on the last tick, is now going to be equal to 2. That's equal to 2. Bar status 1 is no longer equal to 2, but this one is equal to 2. And what we do then is we calculate the exponential average again, but we use an input of 1. And that means that we're shifting back 1 bar and calculating the PSP starting from the previous bar, and then we plot that 1 bar ago, and that seems to help with the synchronization issues. Now, if we do go to the chart and just look at some of the other things, you will notice, for example, this is a chart where we've got a 7-minute chart, and we're using a 1440 minute chart on data 2, and also for the PSP. And if you were to move your mouse over this value here, you'll probably notice that the values are not quite the same, by 0.02 in those cases. So what I did was I plotted the PSP and I overlaid that with data 2, and by doing that you can see situations where the value of the plot 4, which is the PSP close, don't match up exactly with the close of data 2. They do in this particular bar, but in some cases they don't, and I think that is most probably where the value differences are creeping in. So please subscribe to this YouTube channel and join the email list. If you have any questions or you spot any errors, the program will be available for download. Please let me know. I will let you know when I create new programs or tutorials.